I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. This is part 2 of our interview with Kyle Mater from Rainmaker Platoon.
But I remember, so after like the 6th, 7th, and 10th was all done, it was some general, and I think they said it was the MEF commander. I can't remember, but he came to Hurricane Point at the battalion headquarters palace, and they got everyone from the whole battalion who was still there, not wounded or killed, came and sat in the conference room, and he came in, was like, he's like, the general was like, no shit, gents, I want to know about this ACOG. Is it legit? And it was like crickets for a second, and finally someone's like, thing kicks ass, you know. So everyone went around and was like telling stories about the ACOG and stuff and how great it was. And then I remember telling them, like, because they gave us those PVS 14s initially to mount on the rifle.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone did that. And we were like, it's stupid. It's a good idea to have the ACOG gunners with the PVS 14 because then you can still, use it. But having mounted it to the rifle, it's because then you have your only night vision you have is looking through your, down the rifle. So, I mean, I don't think anyone mounted it to the rifle, but it was kind of cool going in there talking to I think a 3-star general or something. Someone said it was Mattis. I don't know if that's true or not. I honestly can't remember. But yeah, it was kind of interesting because all of a sudden the general walked in. We're like, what the fuck? But yeah, we talked to him for a little bit about the ACOG and how great it was. And then it started, shortly thereafter trickling in, everyone getting ACOGs. So I think that might have had something to do with it. But now I think that's just like every rifle has them now, don't they?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Yep. That's even in boot camp. They don't do iron.
No
my understanding is they don't even do iron sights in boot camp anymore.
No shit. Oh, interesting.
That's my understanding.
It's good. That thing was awesome. I love that thing. But yeah, I think so after the 7th, I think didn't we do we did like a big operation on like the 9th or something, didn't we? But so nothing happened.
The 8th was Operation County Fair. It was another
County Fair. Yeah.
It was a pretty good sized cordon search. Was not significant contact, but what we did find was a ton of field hospitals and medical supplies that the insurgents were using to patch up their dudes. And a bunch of dead guys.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of something that happened on the 10th, not the 7th. But yeah, that's right. You know what? We went to the hospital, that big hospital, with I think one of the battalion surgeons or whatever, and then some corpsmen that never left the base. Because I remember he had his 9mm pistol out and he was shaking in the back of the Humvee driving to the hospital. But I remember getting there and there's this like bodies laid out in like the parking lot or whatever at the hospital. So like there had to have been more than 500 or 600 that were killed. Dead bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, even the number of just even less the number of guys killed, even the numbers that they say were like against us, like what the size of the force was that came up against us. I swear to God, it's
higher,
very, very low. Like they're only saying it's like 2,000 or 1,500. I don't remember what they're saying, but it has way more than that.
There had to have been way more than that. But yeah, that county fair, I remember the PSYOPs guys playing some music. I don't remember exactly, but that was kind of fun. But yeah, I remember nothing really happened that day.
They started with drowning pool. It was let the bodies hit the floor.
Yes.
Right after that, spooky as shit, you hear the bells going off of Slayer, Rain and Blood. It was those two songs.
Yeah. I don't remember too much from the county fair except for some lady giving us the bread. That was kind of it was pretty because it came right out of the big pot that they cook it in along the walls of it or whatever. Yeah. She pulled a whole bunch out and gave it to us. So that was pretty good. And then the 10th was bug hunt, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember we went up because we went out with the Army on that one. That's right. Because we had 2 Lioness with us, a staff sergeant, and then I think a specialist. And this is where I kind of disagree with that guy's book. What's his Greg Zarroyo or whatever.
Yeah.
we had that one of I just to save face, one of them was not that great in my opinion. Because I remember like at the end of the 10th, we were doing like vehicle checkpoints, and I was up on a roof doing security with her, and she made a chair out of bricks and then fell asleep, and I threw a brick at her to wake her up.
We
Also, we didn't really let him out of the Humvees either, too much.
what had
At least
happened
for our platoon or in Rainmaker.
if it's the same staff sergeant, she was solid all the way through. We rotated through. There was a handful that filtered out. Like
Yeah.
they wanted to do it. It wasn't for them for a variety of different reasons. Um, but then towards the middle, like Mayish, the ones that we were grabbing were I always found them to be exemplary.
So
For what they were being asked to do.
I just
Well,
recently got a little bit of a deep dive from some of the information about them. There was two specifically that came out with us numerous times and were
Yeah.
interested in coming out. And one of them was that I thought she was a sergeant, but maybe she was a staff sergeant.
There was
I think
one
she was
definitely a
staff
staff sergeant. I remember her being pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other one, I remember when we picked him up from Junction City, she loaded the magazine in backwards into her rifle.
Yeah. So there was what they had done is they just kind of went around and got people
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they weren't MPs necessarily. They didn't really have a lot of combat training.
Yeah,
But
because I
they're
think that staff sergeant, she worked on like the tracks on like some tracked vehicle. I remember her
right,
saying.
right. And so interestingly, this whole idea and program was just sort of a brainchild of one of the base commanders that had talked to another Marine commander, and they made up this idea on their own that this was okay to do. They had not passed it up the chain of command. No one higher than them knew what was going on. So
Okay.
they came out with us May or whatever, late April,
Yeah.
May, June, and then they disappeared. They disappeared because higher command finally found out and was like, "This is illegal. You can't do this." And they actually like it was actually a huge problem. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so
Interesting.
but it's also why they rotated so many different people because they didn't know who would even work. They were just grabbing folks and being like, "Oh, maybe you can do it, maybe you can't." And so they got a kind of a rotating group of it was like 6 or 8 of different people.
That explains a lot then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That staff
Well,
sergeant was solid though. She
yeah,
was
she was pretty good, I remember. I'll just never forget. It was, well, I'll get to that in a second because it was on the 10th. But so we went out with like, there's a lot of army out there, like armor, I remember on the 10th.
Mhm.
Because that was a pretty well planned out operation, on paper at least. But so I remember we hit some houses because we did a raid. We did a couple raids on a couple of houses. At least Rainmaker did. I can't speak for everyone else. I know we hit a couple houses, and then I remember the army, their artillery, putting up like a perfect circle of Illum rounds over the top of us, and there's like a couple perfect circles if I remember right. I was like, that was kind of cool. But yeah, I remember we did a couple raids, and then as the sun started coming up, then someone was I don't remember who, but some Marines were getting engaged, and then I think we did like a movement to contact or something. But it was like it's one of the scariest feelings I ever had was not like being in a firefight, but moving towards one, knowing that at any second now, I'm gonna either get shot at or start shooting. That was the most nerve-wracking thing that I think I ever was. Well, I mean, I talked to other guys who were in Iraq, and you always have this weird weight on your shoulders the whole time. But knowing you're about to be in a firefight, you just moving towards it was the most nerve-wracking experience for me, the whole deployment, uh, or God, ever. But I remember we're moving down the street in the Humvees, and then eventually we dismount, and I think the front of our Humvees got engaged somewhere. We were linking up with someone who's already engaged. I remember those Lioness was jumping out, and Leighton screamed at him to stay the fuck in the Humvees. So he wouldn't let him out of the Humvees because I think Leighton was the like second section leader or not section second squad because Sergeant G was first squad and I think Leighton was second squad. Yeah, we dismounted and I have no idea where we were. I know it was Sophia area, right?
Yes.
So somewhere over there. And I remember we moved up and I think we got engaged for a little bit and oh man, it's tough to remember exactly what order some of it goes in. But I remember for the most part that day we were so yes, we're okay. We got engaged a little bit, and I remember I was holding down, and I can't remember if that was when Sergeant Major was with us or before. Because I remember like Ackles was saying, me and him ran with Sergeant Major for a little bit. I can't remember if that was before or after. Anyways, but I remember engaging down some road. I think I was with Gunny. I think it was Gunny Merarkey. All of a sudden, a grenade comes at us, and we both duck around the corner. And then he goes out there, picked it up, pulled the pin, and threw it back. And I'm almost positive it was Gunny Merarkey. Fuck, I can't remember.
Sounds like a Gunny story.
That's very much a Gunny Merarkey move. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But so he left, and I'm holding down this road, and I didn't realize that first squad had moved out, and I'm still covering down this road. And then I look, all of a sudden I look, and all the first squad's gone. I'm like, oh shit. So I ran over to Leighton, or it may have been a Ponte, and I'm like, hey, where did first squad go? Like, they went that way. I'm like, shit. So I'm about to run up, and they're like, no, just stay with us. So what we did was we ended up kicking down doors, and we'd like a couple guys would rush to the roof as quick as possible, and then the other guys would clear the house. And I remember oh, this was definitely later in the day, because before that we were moving up the street with some other Marines, and yeah, okay. So earlier in the morning we were moving down the street. Fuck, that was a pretty decent gunfight we were in there. That was with Sergeant Major. So I remember he comes running up with his M14, and he goes, I'm going this way, gents. And Sergeant Garcia looks at me and Ackles like, hey, go with Sergeant Major. So we ran off with him. And remember, they're trying to get Bastard 6, the battalion commander, was trying to find Sergeant Major later on. And eventually, I think Lieutenant Dobb or Captain Wilder was like, yeah, he's with some of our guys over this way or something like that. But yeah, anyway, so later on, I'm with second squad. And sorry, I'm with second squad, and we were like kind of like leapfrogging house to house, going up to rooftop. And we go up to this one rooftop, and across the way is like another house, and then there's the road, and then there's a field, and then the river. And I was the first one to the top of the roof, and I just ran up there, get my rifle on the ledge, and these two dudes come around this corner of this wall, and I'm a little out of breath. Another one I regret. I should have taken like a split second or two more just to catch my breath and aim in, because these dudes both had AKs, and I popped a round off quick, and it hit this dude's head, or hit the wall next an inch from this guy's head. And he jumped back. They jumped back around the corner, and then I could see him in like on the other side of the wall. I think I hucked a grenade over at him, but they were running. They were long gone. And I always regret that one, just taking that extra second to calm down for a second, catch my breath, and I probably could have got both of them. But so we got up there, and I think it was on that rooftop that there was these two dudes in the field, and they didn't see us. And so I switched over to them, and I know I dropped the first one, and then everyone started setting up, and we just unloaded them into the field. And then we think they're dead. Then we start seeing like Army, the APCs, and maybe a Bradley moving down the street in front of us. And then I saw first squad, and I'm like, oh, fuck, there's my squad. So we eventually went down and linked up with them. Luna thought I had been like got lost or was dead or something. He was all worried about me. Then we got online, and we pushed into this field. And that Greg Zoroyo guy talks about it in his book, and he talks about Hodges taking this guy down. I'm not trying to call Hodges a liar or say that maybe he just remembered it different, but I'm almost positive it was me and Lei Long that shot that guy that popped up, because he popped up, and I mean he was like 10 feet away from me, and I was again on the far right. So I just ran at this guy as fast as and pulled the trigger. I wasn't even aiming. I was just pointing my rifle at that guy. And I thought it was me and Lei Long. It could have been me and Hodges. I could have been remembering it wrong. But I remember seeing we had two engineers with us, and they went to the ground, and I thought that they were dead, but they all just dove to take cover. I remember we ran up to this guy, and I may or may not have pictures of him, but dude's got like 30 holes in him. Maybe 20. He was shot a ton of times. Like one arm is bent and twisted the wrong way. His elbow's blown out. One of his legs is bent and twisted the wrong way. and the guy's like doing like the death shudder, and Captain Weiler came running up, and he's like trying to get on the radio call for a medevac, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, dude, this guy's shot, 6 ways from Sunday, and I grabbed Captain Weiler, I'm like, sir, look at him, he's fucking dead. And he's like, yeah, I disregard all that. And then there was some other like one house or building there. Captain Weiler saw something, so he started shooting at the house. So we all start shooting at the house. I don't think we found anything in it. We found some debt cord, I'm pretty sure. But then we got online and then pushed, kind of did that like a door and then pushed through. And that's when we found some big brown house that was like a hospital. Because there was like I wasn't up on the top floor, but they found dudes like hiding in the top floor and like through a secret door. I remember we pulled them all out. I remember I found a deep freezer, and remember opening the deep freezer and like sticking her head in the deep freezer because it was to cool off.
It felt good. Yeah.
I remember we pulled all these dudes out of this like makeshift hospital. I think that was when Lieutenant Dobbs shot someone. I'm pretty sure that's when Lieutenant Dobbs shot that guy. And then we brought that guy outside, and then someone I thought we determined he was a doctor that was in this house, like doing a little makeshift field hospital for the fighters. And he was saying how like all these guys were shot by a helicopter. I'm like, get the fuck out. They wouldn't be like, these are like rifle round holes, not helicopter bullets, like their arm would be gone or they'd be blown in half. But that doctor came running out to give something to this guy, Lieutenant Dobbs shot, and we're like, no, you're good, and he's dead now. And just the look on that doctor's face was like, when we told him the guy was dead, it was, I don't know, like I was a teenager still, so technically I was 19, so I didn't care too much back then. But yeah, I remember we pulled all the bodies up to the street, and then there was some Army APC that got tagged by a RPG at some point or a little before that, because I got pictures of it too, because it's got the blast all over the side of the armor. Didn't hurt anyone, but I got pictures of that somewhere in my photo album. But yeah, I don't remember what we did after that. I think that was near the late afternoon by then. I think we just did like vehicle checkpoints for a while longer, and then eventually I think we just went back to Hurricane Point. I'm pretty sure. But oh, there was some van that we were moving, and it was, I can't remember who it was. It was in one of the map platoons he was one of the gunners, but him and Savage lit some van up that had fighters coming in it. Oh shit, I totally forgot about this. We were moving before we hit that, before I got separated from first squad, I think. There was some like power plant over there.
Okay.
And I remember they had hit some IEDs like probably prematurely, and there was these big holes in the ground. And I remember moving up and I remember Lane Long and I jumping in these holes and engaging some dudes that were like running by the power plant. And then I think we thought they went inside because definitely first squad went in the power plant. We cleared all of that. So we went down in the basement. I remember the basement being like, it wasn't much of a basement because you had to crouch, but it was like, it was dirt floor and it was pitch black and there's a bunch of like pillars. And we just got online and like pushed down well, we had mag lights. I think I had a mag light electrical tape to my rifle at the time. So that came in kind of handy. But I remember pushing through there, that power plant. I think it was a power plant. You guys remember that at all?
There were a couple of different power substations. I don't remember one specifically with a basement like that, but if it was, it may have been the generating station that was in between Nova and the river.
Yeah, it may be because it wasn't far from the river. Because I remember we scared the shit out of some guys that were inside working it. I just remember some guy sitting there with a coffee cup, with like a glass see-through coffee cup with his feet up. It might have been tea. I don't know. And we scared the shit out of that guy. But I just remember seeing like this guy's just going about his daily job.
Yep.
And there's explosions and gunfire going on all around him.
Yep.
It's like, this is insane.
Yep. Punching into his 9 to 5 at the power plant. You guys are interrupting his break.
Yeah. But yeah, then we just did vehicle checkpoints for a while. And then I think at the end of the day, we went back to Junction City. Or we went to Combat Outpost for a little bit. So I remember there was one of the Lionesses with one of the other platoons was telling war stories because she had shot someone. I remember she walked around like Like none of us had done it before, you know, like she's the only one there who's ever shot someone. I was like, calm down. I remember my first time too, you know. But I think we eventually brought them back to Junction City. I think we might have ate chow there too, if I remember right. And then we went back to
Dude,
Hurricane Point.
dude, I mean, I don't know about your platoon, but for our platoon, if there was any reason to go anywhere near Junction City, we were eating.
Yeah,
Because
we did the same thing.
yeah,
Lieutenant
yeah.
Bob liked going there for chow. It
A-
was
Anything was better than the shit we had at Hurricane
oh,
Point.
dude, that shit was so fucking bad. I mean, we only got breakfast and dinner. Lunch was you figure it out with
Yep.
MREs or whatever. And I remember for dinner getting like white rice, burger patties, and those big hot dogs for like almost every meal.
Yep.
And then the only condiment for a while was Thousand Island dressing. I didn't eat Thousand Island dressing for years
Yeah.
after that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because oh, that's right. Who was it? They were calling it they were calling it a Big Mac. Because they would put the ketchup and the Thousand Island together
Yeah.
and be like, no, it's just like a Big Mac. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I
I
didn't
forgot
eat
about
Thousand
that.
Island dressing for years after that. I still really don't care for it too much.
Oh, that's
But
too funny.
yeah, I mean, I think once in a while we got like it's either like chicken Kiev or chicken cordon bleu. We
Yep.
got that
Cordon bleu.
a
Yep.
couple of times, and that was like, oh my God, that was like
They
Thanksgiving dinner.
they had that often. And I don't know if it was just depending on where the log train came from, but Blue Diamond had the chicken cordon bleu
Really?
fairly regular, at least in my memory. Like I remember running across it over there. So I don't know if it depended on where we were getting our chow from
Yeah, even Blue Diamond had
or
a
whatever.
better chow
Oh,
than
by
we
far.
did.
Way far.
Always.
Yeah, way
Wait,
better.
I mean,
Oh God. Well, I remember
not even in the same category.
I rarely went and got breakfast at Hurricane Point because it was those tray rats, and it was
Mhm.
like they cut you out a cube of egg, and it was disgusting and watery. It was
Yeah.
that shit was so gross. Oh, I couldn't stand
Just
it.
covered up with Tabasco sauce and ketchup and just
Yeah. Well,
throw it down your gullet.
do you remember we switched Chaw's? They built that new one for us at some point during the deployment because we had the original one with
Oh,
the canvas
yeah,
roof,
that's
and then
right. I forgot
they
about
built
that.
yeah they built the new one closer to like the uh
The palace.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember
Right.
they put a sign up on there, and I'll never forget fucking Hodges. The sign said like if you're not clean shaven and clean camis and something else, you will not be served. And Hodges in front of all these Chow workers points at it and in his loud voice goes, "If this is what you worry about on a combat deployment, you might be a pogue." And he said it so fucking loud. It was so funny. Well, I'll tell you, I grew up a hatred for the Chow workers while we were on that deployment. Oh, I got a funny story. It was earlier on into the deployment. They took a Gunny got a working party, and I don't know. I don't think he knew because he didn't know what it was for. He's like, "You got to go over to the Chow." So it was like me and someone else from 81s, and then one or two more from all other platoons. So we go over to the Chow. There's some corporal in there. I don't remember who it was. I remember he had ears like Dumbo. They stuck out to the sides, like abnormally. It was weird. It was interesting. But so we're like setting up the chow hall, and we're like unloading. The log train or something came through. We're unloading stuff, and I'm like, "Where are all the chow hall workers to do their job?" And he goes, "It's food service specialist or whatever their MOS is." I'm like, "Whatever, it's fucking chow hall workers." And he's like, "They're on their rest time." I'm like, "Fucking rest time?" And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So we unload this shit, and I was never really insubordinate to an NCO, but to that guy, I definitely was. I'm like, "This is fucking stupid. This is your job, not my job." And he got, tried to yell at me, and I was like, "Dude, whatever, you're a fucking pogue." And so he's like, "All right, the next log trim comes in at this time. You're going to be setting up and serving chow." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." And he goes, "The hell you're not." I'm like, hold on a second. So I went right to Gunny and I'm like, "Gunny, do you know what they got us doing over there?" And so I told him, he goes, "Mater, go back over there right now, get all the weapons company Marines and get them back to here right now." We never did a working party for the Chow again after that. And then they would hoard the Gatorade because Gatorade is like gold, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
They hoarded the Gatorade, so we did a little night mission one night. Went over to the new Chow Hall, and they just secured it with like 550 cord from the inside. So we cut it. We went in, stole all the Gatorade for the company, for our company. All the Gatorade. I think we were taking out cases of Doctor the Coca-Cola and shit like that. We stole anything we could. We just took because we were like, fuck those guys.
That's awesome.
Oh man. And then God, I think someone else. I remember one of the Chow workers in that AT&T phone center talking about a firefight that we were just in. Because I would call home if a Marine ever got not wounded, but if a Marine got killed from our battalion, I would call my mom or my dad and be like, "Hey, it's not me," in case like word got back. Because in after the 6th, 7th, and 10th, my mom's side does like a family dinner once a month on a Sunday. And it was soon after that, like there's a thing on the news, like, it was 14 or 15 Marines killed in Ramadi. So my uncles were like watching TV and they saw that and they're like, "Isn't that where Kyle is?" And they're like, "Yeah." So they turned the TV off before my mom could see it. And I actually called home, like, I think that day or the next day, like, "Hey, just so you know, like, I'm fine," you know. But one of the Chow workers was sitting next to me on the phone talking about a firefight I had just been in. I'm like, "Motherfucker, I know you weren't out there." I'm like, so shit like that. I just couldn't stand them. Couldn't stand them. But, and then that one night, it was like later on in the deployment when we had, uh, oh my God, the Fox 4 guy, Oliver North. We had
Oliver North.
Oh,
Yeah.
with
Oliver
us.
North, yeah.
And we got in some big firefight one day, and then at the end, I think we had like the street, we had Route Michigan lined up with vehicles, Army and us, and then we eventually just went back, and Lieutenant Dobb was like, "Charles is going to be open for us when we get back," because they had specific hours we had to eat at. And we get back, and I remember my fire team was the first one to get to the Chow doors, and I'm like, "Fucking locked." Like, what the fuck? And then it's pitch black out, and all of a sudden these two or three dudes come around the corner. They're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Fucking doors locked. Fuck Chow workers." And didn't realize it was the battalion commander, it was the sergeant major, and it was Oliver North. Colonel Kennedy told the sergeant major, "Go get all the Chow workers right now." And by now there's more Marines from weapons company, lining up to get in for Chow. He had all the Chow workers and their platoon sergeant, that little short fat Gunny, all lined up and screamed and yelled at him. They had that Chow open so fucking quick. I mean, he berated them like, "These fighting Marines are out here, fighting all day long, and you're back here doing fuck all, and they can't even open the Chow and feed them," shit like that. Like, your one job here. Dude, he laid into him. I'm like, "Right on, Colonel, right on." I'm like, holy shit. And I remember Oliver North sitting in there. He ate and then he fell asleep almost immediately in his chair in the Chow. But
Well, I don't know how old he is, but I mean, he had to have been in his 60s, right? I mean, he's got to.
Well, he would have been.
Yeah.
So if you remember when he got famous for the first time, in the 80s, he was in his 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's still alive now. Is he 100?
He was in his 60s. He was in his 60s and so now he's in his 80s. So
yeah. I never saw it. I heard rumors that he carried a grenade and a pistol on him. I never saw it, so I don't know if that was true or not. But tell you, that dude was fearless, because that day with the Chaw workers, when we were out there shooting, I remember, because he was riding, I think he was riding with us or was with us at some point, because he rode with us for a little bit with Rainmaker, quite a few times.
Yeah.
He's just like, "Gents, I'm going this way," and just linked up with another platoon that was like a block down the road, and this camera guy is following him down the road, and it's like, holy shit, he's just gonna run down the street in the middle of a firefight.
I don't remember which time it was, but he came in, and this was early on, and he was riding in my truck, and so we had just gotten into it a little bit, and I can't remember. We had gone back to Blue Diamond for some reason with him, and that's where we were kind of maybe dropping him off. Maybe that's what it was going on. Anyways, the point of the story is that we were talking, and we said something about kind of like the intensity of it, and he was like, "Oh no, he's like, this is like Vietnam, man. He was because if I remember the story correctly, he was in Way City, like he fought in in that urban environment, and
Yeah.
kind of commenting on, we didn't. The only time that we did urban combat between Korea and our time was basically Way City. That was the only instance in between. And so he had kind of a soft spot for urban combat
Okay.
because he had seen it, and it was like, no, this is this is unprecedented. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why he was so
Did you go to
enjoyous.
that? Did you guys go to that? He kind of told his like life story one night at Hurricane Point, and
Yes.
he was in the building which I think turned into the new Chow Hall.
Yep.
But as I went to that, that was interesting. Listening to him talk about his like life in the Marine Corps. That was pretty interesting. I was surprised. I thought there'd be more dudes in there, but I remember it'd be not too many. But that was kind of cool. Listen to him talk. That was yeah. He came on a couple raids with us too. I remember. So I'll never forget one. I had my Kevlar sitting on the hood of the Humvee with my night vision already on it, and it slid off, and that little uh the little cap that keeps the batteries in broke. So I had to go
Oh.
without night vision that night. And he's looked at me and goes, "Oh, that sucks," or something like that. I was like, fuck. I'm like, thanks. But after that, I went and got a new one, and then I dummy cored it to the night vision. But yeah, I was like, fuck. Of course, it happened right in front of fucking Oliver North. I was super embarrassed. That was the night we did something with Army Rangers, I remember. Because
Oh,
they had their like I think they were like LAVs almost. They had like these tan or brown LAVs.
The strikers. Yeah.
Yeah, that could have been it. Yeah.
so if that's the same one, that's when we were that was a really big raid. And
Yeah.
that's also, I was just, while you're saying this, while we were on the topic of Oliver North, I was going to tell my favorite Oliver North story, which is, and the short version of it is, after we had done the kick and we were doing all the guys, some of the special forces guys were inside the compound, and Ollie was given his like spiel, and like they're getting B footage and stuff like that. And the special forces guys kept trying to get in the camera shot, and, and North face palmed the one out of the shot and was like, "You didn't do shit. These Marines are the ones that did it all. Stop trying to grab their glory." And made me very happy.
I remember doing a couple raids with special forces because there was one of them where they landed little birds on rooftops, and they dismounted guys
That's cool.
from the little birds.
Oh wait, I remember that. That's right.
Yeah, I remember that one. I know we did at least
Forgot about that.
we did a couple with the special forces guys. I remember that because which was weird because we were always the main assaulters or the entry team. I'm like, shouldn't these guys be doing it? Like they're special, special forces. Like, but we're doing it. Like, all right, whatever.
I don't know how true it is, but I was told while we were over there that part of the reason why we were doing it is because at that point we were more experienced.
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
And so we had done more, like we had just, because I had asked that question. I was like, well, why are we doing this for them when they're the ones that are supposed to be? And they're like, well, at this point we have more experience. And so they were having us, and then we had a larger asset. I mean, it was,
yeah.
Did
you guys put candy paint on for the night raids at all? Dude, we did.
Because I never wanted it. They tried to. Gunny had talked to us about it the one time, and I remember very much pushing back. I was like, "Why? It is a bitch to get it off our faces. Like, yes. What are we like? We're not gonna."
We didn't have to, but we did it because it scared the shit out of people. So we loved. That's the only reason why we did it, because it scared the shit out of people. So I
wanted nothing to do with trying to clean up afterwards.
Cleaning it off was a bitch, but I like doing it because it scared the shit out of people. But that's the only reason why.
A couple of guys in my platoon did. I never did. I had a ski mask. I pulled out. I had like a terrorist style ski mask that I would wear every once in a while. Yeah.
So yeah, I was. I remember May 1st in the Humvee with Hurley. I think. Obviously, Dan Holm was driving. John Hurley was the gunner. Fernandez was the vehicle commander, and then it was, I think, in the back of the Humvee. I think Luna was on the left, closest to the gunner. I was in the back left, and then Ackles. I thought there was someone else in the back too. I can't remember. I thought there's someone on Ackles' side too, but I could be wrong. Anyways, we were doing some patrol. I think we were doing a presence patrol over, and I had it written down. Oh, it was called South Canal Road over by Snake Pit. I
Hmm.
remember I had a sucker in my mouth, a blow pop, and it just gotten like pretty much done with it. And I leaned out the back of the Humvee and spit the stick out. And as soon as I sat up is when the bomb went off. And I took shrapnel in my left hand from that one. But my night vision darked out and I flung backwards. I remember sitting up and I could still kind of it's hard to remember. I remember Hurley tearing I turned my night vision back on and I turned my PEC 2 on. And then I just like started scanning the area and I could hear yelling. And I looked over at Hurley and through my night vision, I could see him taking his helmet and his Kevlar off. I remember yelling to put it back on. And I remember said something about like, going into shock. And then I could see like dark spots on his arm and on his face, which was obviously blood. And then I remember turning and then everything kind of slowed down. I remember like looking to the rear and seeing McNaughton run up with his, because he was like, some guys were like, can't remember what they're, a combat aidsman. They went to like some combat
Oh yeah.
aidsman
Yeah,
training.
that
It
was
was
what
like,
the official title was. Yeah.
yeah. So I remember him running up with his little aid bag, and then I jumped out of the back of the Humvee and immediately fell back onto like in a sitting position on the tailgate of the Humvee. And then like I was frozen. I couldn't move. Everything was in like slow motion. And I'm like looking for my rifle because McNaughton had taken my rifle away and then opened my flak jacket and was like checking me for any injuries. And I just remember I couldn't move. And then all of a sudden my head started pounding. My eyes were hurting. And then this like noise the ringing in my ears kind of developed, and I couldn't hear shit. And I just remember everything was in slow motion. I remember like trying to stand up. He kept pushing me back. And then at one point I did stand up and then fell right back down into that sitting position. But everything was in like slow motion. And then at one point I was frozen. Like I couldn't move. It was the weirdest thing ever. But I remember like my hand felt like it was on fire after taking the shrapnel in there. And then I remember seeing them getting home out of the front seat. And then I think Hurley was like walking wounded. And I don't remember a whole lot what they like if they loaded them up or how they got out of there. But all of a sudden they were gone. And I just remember thinking like we're sitting ducks here. Then I started coming back too. And I was like, okay, still my ears are ringing like crazy, but I could like move around and like everything was like normal speed again, you know? And then it was you guys, right? In map 2 that came
Yep.
out.
Yep.
Yeah. So, who was your lieutenant?
Lieutenant Stevens.
Stevens. Okay. I remember seeing him out there, and he's trying to talk to me and I'm like, can't fucking hear you. I think we kicked in a couple doors over there. Oh, I think we did a couple. So I remember I have a vivid memory of Stickle kicking in a door and then going in with a couple other dudes. And then eventually, did we get a wrecker out there or did we tow it back?
So we waited for a wrecker for a very long time
Yeah.
and finally got word that the wrecker wouldn't come out. And we towed the vehicle out, if I remember correctly, with like either it was the shitty tow bar that we had welded together
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
and we never used it again because it never worked worth a shit. The next time we did that thing, we just did it with a tow strap. But we had made a tow bar uh,
Yeah.
out of a design out of Gunny Meraki's head, I think. And
That probably.
when we were welding together armor, we had welded together a tow bar.
Okay. I have a vague memory of someone saying that the wrecker, whoever got hit by an IED on the way out with
Oh,
whoever
it may
escort.
have that may have happened. I just
Yeah.
remember waiting for it forever, and there being power lines down, and I thought somebody was going to get electrocuted to death. I remember
Yeah.
that there was a giant building like next door, and I was like, if we start getting contact, this would be the perfect place to do it because they've got us dead to
Yeah.
it because they've
Yeah.
got great plunging fire. But that was
Yeah.
it. That was what I remember.
I remember after that going to back to Hurricane Point, going to BAS, and I think I can't remember if it was Doc Contreras or Doc Rakebrand, but they where all those shrapnel was in my hand, they like injected a needle into it and did something. I don't know. That hurt almost as bad as taking the shrapnel. And then they
Yeah.
pulled all the metal out of my out of my hand and out of my fingers. I think it was, I think because oh yeah, I remember Ackles had like a piece of metal like sticking in his forehead, and it didn't obviously didn't penetrate too far, but it was just sticking right. I'll never forget sticking right in his forehead, and yeah. So they brought me, him, and Luna and Fernandez to the BAS, and oh, there's something about that. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I think they said I had a concussion also, but
I mean, everything you're saying
probably.
sounds like a concussion. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I remember First Sergeant Mack made me use the Iridium phone and call my mom because they're like they're gonna contact your mom, so might as well just get ahead of it and let her know you're actually okay. So I remember I called her, said I was okay. It's funny because I called her on the like the AT&T phone uh like a while later, and she's like, I just got a call from some Marine captain saying, and she got a letter in the mail from the regimental commander.
Mhm.
And she said, this Marine captain said, you're recovering nicely in the hospital. And I was like, I never went to I mean, I went to the aid station, but I never went to the hospital. She's like, I talked to him. He's not in the hospital. And he's like, the guy didn't know what to say.
Right. The information they got, so I ended up talking to it was one of our Marines that was in Cat Platoon who got hurt, and then somehow he got assigned to this detail where they compiled the information to contact people. And I talked to him later, like when we got back, it was terrible. The information they were getting was complete like game of telephone. None of it was accurate. They had
Yeah.
no idea what was going on.
So I think Luna, when he re-enlisted, he did that on his second enlistment.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine again, this
Yeah.
is one of those things where we were so early in the combat, there was no system in place. They were just using random Marines
Yeah.
who, like, again, this guy was one of the guys in Cat Platoon who was hurt. He had broke his leg, and so he wasn't able to deploy. And so he was gathering information from whatever they sent him, and he was compiling these letters, and then the regimental command would send him out.
Yeah. Interesting. Because yeah, my mom, because I ended up getting wounded a total of 2 times. So she got 2 letters, like both saying I was recovering nicely in the hospital when I never went to the hospital either time. But I mean, maybe they're talking about like going to the BAS. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I remember not too long after that being on guard week and being on one of the towers, and they're like, that was right when those Fox Company scout swimmers drowned.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, keep an eye out because this is what happened. We're like, oh, you got to be shitting me. So we were always scanning the river with binoculars looking for like, Marines in the water, which was awful. But I remember all this thinking like, why the fuck would they swim to that island? Like, ugh. But I mean, no one knew how bad the river was, I guess, or the current. But that was kind of shitty. It seemed like a waste to me.
It was. Yep.
But yeah, then so May 12th, I think I got it written down as May 12th when Savage got hit. Is
That's
that
correct. Yeah.
correct? All right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So in my journal, I had written down that we were escorting some sheik around to different schools, and we were on our way back to Hurricane Point. And I remember we had like some Humvees down or something, so we had like less Humvees with Rainmaker than we normally did. So we had our bench that we had down the middle of the Humvee was now switched facing so that like it was me and Fernandez were sitting on the bench facing like towards the rear, and then
Hmm.
we had Doc C in the Humvee, Luna and Ackle. So we had like an extra person in there, and then Savage was on the 50 cal, and then Regal driving, and then Lieutenant Dobb was the Beagle commander, obviously. And then I think Ackles talked about his door had fallen off, so he just had that like blanket, the ballistic blanket there, which was I was like, oh my God, I'm glad that's not me. But I remember Savage had a huge problem with sitting on the armor on the side of the Humvee. And I always was yelling at him to sit down, just sit down and like, hold the butterfly grip on the 50 cal. And I regret not pushing harder that day because I remember telling him like, dude, get off the armor, just sit down. But he always wanted to sit up and, so he could see better. So when that IED went off, um, I was sitting facing to the rear with Fernandez, and I can't remember if I was on the left or the right side, but it doesn't really matter. I just remember like a black, a black cloud, and then like gray streaks going through it, and then obviously Regal, like he got hit, and he must have hit the gas and like lost steering. So we went off the road down that drop off. I remember just getting bounced around in the back of the Humvee, and then we were in one big pile. I remember like looking over and looking at Savage's face, and I couldn't hear shit, and he was mouthing something. I think someone said he was saying he was hit or something, and and I got blood on me from him not realizing that, and and I was all dazed. I remember I sat up with my legs straight out, and I checked my legs, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm good. And then I blacked out. When I came to, I was like 50 yards away from the Humvee, soaking wet from my pretty much my waist down because there was like some mud patties or something there. And I was on some berm, like holding security with my rifle off safe. And I was like, and I like, and then like I came to, and I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? No memory of jumping off the Humvee and running through the mud and the water
Mhm.
and then sitting there. I remember looking back and I see First Sergeant Mac come trudging up the road with his shotgun. And then I think Sergeant G was either right in front of him or right behind him. And then I look and I see Doc Contreras has Savage propped up and he's working on him. And I see someone's walking Riegelsberger up to the road because he was all fucked up. And then I eventually came back to the Humvee, and Luna had like I think a piece of shrapnel like gone across Luna's forehead, and like because his whole face was covered in blood, like he had blood in his eyes, he couldn't see, he was freaking out because he couldn't, he thought he was, I think he must have assumed he was blind or something because he had blood in his eyes, and then they wrapped bandages around him so he couldn't see anyways. And then remember seeing, I can't remember, I don't think I was part of it, but some dudes carried Savage up from like where the Humvee was up onto the road. And then everything's a little hazy because like my bell got rung good on that one. I actually found out that I cracked a vertebrae in my spine. Years later, I found out at the
Huh.
VA, and that it like had fused or something back together or something. Because I
I
mean,
know
I
somebody
can't.
else who did that too and had to walk with a
Yeah.
cane for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh God. Because I can't bend backwards like a normal person. Like if I had to do the limbo,
Uh-huh.
I can't do it like a normal person can,
Yeah.
apparently. But anyways, yeah, that after getting blown up, it's all a little hazy. Because I remember, by then like everyone, I think they found a second IED if I remember right, two
Mm.
over there. Because I remember once they got Savage and Luna out of there and Regal out of there. If I remember right, Bowers was on a 240 or on a saw on one of the Humvees, and Lieutenant Wells, the company XO, had sent him to with Savage and maybe the others. I don't know. And they're like, don't stop for shit. Shoot at anything you need to get to combat outpost. I remember Bowers telling me about that. I'm almost positive it was Bowers who was on a 240, just shooting it up the whole way back to combat outpost.
Yeah.
But eventually, once we got the wounded out of there, we kind of across the street was like not saying a strip mall is little shops or something.
Hmm.
And we were, and I, dude, I remember being out of it and just like kicking indoors and going in. And I think eventually they had Sletton with me to like as a wrangler or something. Cause I'm like, dude, I shouldn't have been there. Like I was so fucked up in the head. I was walking around without a care in the world. And I think if I'd seen anyone, I would have just started shooting at them. Luckily, there's no one out. And then when we got done there, we went back on the other side of the road and they had us lined up to do another foot patrol. And then I started getting dizzy. I remember looking at Sergeant Garcia and being like, Sergeant G, man, I don't feel good. I'm dizzy as shit. And he had me sit down in a Humvee and drink water. And there was some lieutenant from Weapons Company who was like freaking out. And I remember Sergeant Garcia having to like yell at him. And then he was sitting in the same Humvee as me, like calming down too. I don't remember who it was, but he was like freaking out. And I remember Sergeant G yelling at him. But I remember sitting there like I was like out of it until we like loaded back up to go back to Hurricane Point. I don't remember anything else after that besides sitting in the Humvee. I don't remember the drive back to Hurricane Point. That one rung my bell pretty good. And I think I had another concussion from that one too.
Well, I was going to say, you just got hit by two giant explosions within
Yeah.
about 2 weeks. So,
Oh, I do remember something. Holy shit. So I think they found the second IED. I'm almost positive they did because I remember I think we had gotten, no, we didn't get word that Savage hadn't made it. But I remember because they sent Luna out. Obviously, they sent Savage out and Regal. And I remember it was like me, Fernandez, ACOGs, it might have just been the three of us doing security while they called out EOD for that second IED, and we just kind of sat there, and it was like the most like somber like feeling. Just the three of us were kind of like we didn't spread out. We kind of just sat the three of us by next to each other, and we're just like, this fucking sucks. Like, I don't think any of us thought Savage was gonna pull through on that one because I remember him being pretty fucked up. God, which is really, really shitty. We just kind of sat there, like we didn't really talk a whole lot, and it was a weird feeling. Like we all knew because like Luna's wounded, Savage is wounded, Regal's wounded, the three dudes from our truck, and we were just like, dude, this fucking sucks. And we just kind of like sat there, like watching our area while they blew up the other IED. It was weird. And then I think soon after we went back to Hurricane Point, I don't really remember. And then they brought me and I think they brought ACOGs or whoever else. Rake Brent came over and got us and brought us over to BAS. And then we're in there because I was bleeding out of my ear because I had like a ruptured eardrum or something. And I don't remember, like at some point I went like this to like I put my hand to my ear and like blood on my hand. I'm like, oh fuck. And yeah, we went back to BAS and then Rake Brent, like it was me, Fernandez, and maybe ACOGs. He like pulled us out to the back, but outside behind BAS at the battalion headquarters, gave us all a cigarette. I'm like, well, this isn't good. And then he told us like Savage didn't make it because everyone else, I think Staff Sergeant Cook talked to him at the hooches, but we were still at BAS. So Rake Brent came out and then he told us, and that was like, I don't know, kicking the nuts when he told us that Savage didn't make it. But that really sucked. And it sucked even more because then we went back into BAS and there's all these people that, don't know what we just went through and have no idea. They're joking around and it's just me, Fernandez, and ACOGs like sitting there like in tears and like, no one has any idea what's going on except for Rake Brand. It was like I just wanted to get out of there as quick as possible and go back to the platoon, which because they and I didn't know that they had been told by Staff Sergeant Cook when we got back. But it sucked.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.